So this assessment is a group assessment, and you have to form groups of 5. I am not putting anyone in groups. You need to know what works for you. I'm assuming that you already have formed groups because we normally tend to stick to a group that we like working with. So I hope that you already have that, so it will be easy for you to form your groups. If not, you can work according to your centers, whatever works for you and your group members, by all means, go right ahead and do it, right? However, I would not be accepting individual work. So I'll go through how I'll deal with that group members who don't contribute anything, right? But I'm not accepting an individual working by themselves. Good? Good. So the assignment is based on the expanded core curriculum, which is what we did last week. And you are developing a program to do training in one of the ECC areas. Remember, we went through the 9 areas, right? Assistive tech, orientational mobility, compensatory access, and so on. So you are selecting one of those areas and you are developing a program to do training in that area. And I gave you the breakdown of what is expected for the program. Good. So the name of your program. So what is the title of your program? What are the objectives? So you must have at least 2 objectives. Your objectives will state what the program hopes to accomplish. What is the purpose of the program? What do you want to accomplish at the end of the program? And the duration. When you are giving the duration, and I'll go through all of these in greater detail just now, but for the duration, you want to give me specifically, when you're doing up the summary of activities part, when you want to talk about how often it will be done. So don't say it's a 3 months project. Say it's a 3 months project with 2 1-hour sessions being held every week. Good. So that gives me an idea of, okay, doing 2 hours a week on 2 different days. An overview of the program. So this summarizes what your program will be about, what the project will be about. Your target beneficiary. So who are you targeting? Who are the trainees or the beneficiaries of the program? So you describe your beneficiaries' age group, if it's just females, if it's just males, if it's a mixture. You know, you need to have an age group that you're working with, and you need to have a number that you're working with. Is it 10 students, 15 students, 20 students? Don't go over 20, right? Because programs, you generally want to stick to like 20. Your summary of activities, this is where you will describe in details what exactly you plan on doing. Now we covered, let's say under orientation and mobility, let's say you want to cover 4 areas. This is where you describe it and how it will be done. Good. Your intended outcomes. Your outcomes would be both short-term and long-term outcomes. Short-term outcomes mean those things that you can measure or observe just after the program. So if you say that you'll do training in money management, personal hygiene, at the end of 4 months, your short-term goals would be 20 students with visual impairments who are trained in personal hygiene, those different things, right? A long-term outcome would be that these students will have greater success of social integration because they are more aware of how to make friends, how to take care of themselves, things like that. Because that's that's a more long-term goal that you're looking at, right? Good. So here is the structure now. You must have an introduction, and this would be for your PowerPoint and your oral presentation, right? I do not want lengthy details on your PowerPoint. This is where your oral presentation will come in. Good. So for example, you will list out your objectives on the PowerPoint, but in your actual presentation, I do not expect that you will just read it off of the slide and that's it. I expect you to, if you read it off of the slide, you go into details and explain why the objective was chosen, how you see it actually working, things like that, right? So I need you to explain what is on your slide. I don't want you to tell me what's on the slide because I'll read it for myself. I want you to explain and go into details, explaining what you have on your slide, the information that you have there. So I have the timeline. So introduction, not a very long introduction. Introduce yourself, your group, your program, and establish your main points. Good. So in the body outline here, you have the title, you introduce the title. You could say why you chose that particular title. And your objectives and duration. Then you have your target beneficiaries, describe the population you intend on targeting through the project, highlighting developmental milestones and development typical good for children at that age. So if you choose ages 10 to 13 and you choose personal hygiene as an area that you want to look at, then when you are describing, you need to say why you chose this particular age group. What is unique about this age group that this particular training will be beneficial to them? So justification could be that during this time, many young adolescents are now going through puberty, right? And with puberty comes a lot of bodily changes. And many parents are not comfortable having personal hygiene talks with their children. Therefore, for children with visual impairments, this topic is extremely important because it fills a gap that exists, right? If we don't do this program and this training with these children, they would grow into adults who would be socially shunned, right? They'll be ostracized and they would not be able to integrate into society because they lack the knowledge on how to properly care for themselves. That's just like an example of what I mean when I say describe your target group and why this particular area is important and what their developmental milestones are. Good. So I talked about the intended outcomes, 3 short-term, and 3 long-term impacts or outcomes of your program. Evaluation. Explain 2 ways that you will measure and evaluate the effectiveness of the project. So how do you plan on measuring if this program or project was a success? So like when you teach your subjects, you do a test and your test results will tell you how well the students understood the topic, which means how well you taught the topic, right, to your students. So that's what evaluation in this sense means. How do you plan on evaluating the effectiveness of your project? Will you do pre-test and post-test? Will you do observations? Will you do checklists? Will you use a rubric? Will you do interviews with the children? You know, would you have before and after photos? Things like that. How do you plan on measuring your successes or the effectiveness of your program? Good. And then you have your conclusion where you end off. Of course, everyone here knows how you do your conclusion. You summarize all your main points and then you close off. Good. Now let's get to group dynamics. Now I know there are people who always jump to do introduction and conclusion because it's the easiest part to do. So each group member needs to take on a significant part of the presentation. So if you do introduction and conclusion, you'll also have to do another part. So you guys will have to know how you're splitting up the work among your group members. At least 8 relevant and appropriate sources you must cite. And have at the end of your PowerPoint, you must have your references and your in-text citations must also be present in throughout your presentation, right? So in your presentation, let's say you want to quote a statistic, you can say according to whoever, 70% of children with visual impairments lack knowledge on personal hygiene, you know, something like that when you're justifying your program. Good. Your presentation will be 15 to 20 minutes. I think I need to change that in the document here. 15 to 20 minutes. So please make a note of that. If you go over 20 minutes, I'm going to stop your recording at 20 minutes and I will not mark anything after 20 minutes, right? I will also not mark anything less than 15 minutes because it means that you have not adequately gone through your project because this alone is like, could be 25 minutes explaining all of these things, right? So please ensure that you stick to the timeline, use up the 20 minutes if needed, but don't go over the 20 minutes. Good. Now, let's say you form a group, 5 of you form a group, and 2 persons are not doing anything. That's fine. If you need to do the work, do the work. But you are submitting your group members on, your first slide, you put your group member names. And on each slide or on each section, if you did the work, your name will go there. You can put it at the bottom or at the top, right? So where your name is, I will assume that you did that part and you'll be presenting on that part. So let me just repeat that so we understand it. All of the group member names will go at the beginning of the PowerPoint, right? You could do the slide 2 or something. You put your group member names. However, if only 3 members did the work and you split up the sections, let's say one person did the introduction, they did the overview, and they did the summary of activities. On those slides, those person's name will be there. That person's name will be there. So when I'm marking, I can see the exact part that that person did. They put together the information and they presented on that part. Good? So it means the other two group members whose names are not on that PowerPoint, I will know that they didn't do anything. Good? If you as a group choose to put your group member names on slides that you know they did not do, and they don't show up presentation to do the presentation, then I cannot help you there, because if you put someone's name on the slide, I will assume the person did the work. If their name is not there, I'll assume that they didn't do the work, right? So you deal with it how you think is best.
Excuse me, Miss.
Go ahead.
In relation to this, what you're discussing right now, um, 5 members in a group, all 5 has to be presenting. You have to hear our
Yes,
voice, all 5 of us.
yes, yes. All
So,
5 individuals have to present.
okay then, because I was just about to ask, what if 2 do the write-up and 3 present? The
No,
whole team still do work.
no.
So you have to hear
And
all 5 of
yeah,
our voices.
yes. The reason why I do it that way is because I mark each individual. I mark each person individually for their presentation. So no group, you don't get a group mark for the presentation. You don't get 15 out of 20 and the entire group gets 15 out of 20. Right? Each person will be marked individually for how well they present. So if you present and you get 9 out of 10, that may not be the same grade for your other colleague, because they might get a 6 out of 10 for their presentation. So
Miss,
again,
I
good night.
sorry to barge in. Miss, question, does it have to be 5 persons for a group? Miss, why I ask is because we've done presentations or group presentations before, and we have a group of 6 that we usually do the assignments with. So that's why I ask.
Okay. What I don't want is that if 6 persons were to present in 20 minutes, it would not work in terms of the time to give everyone an equal chance of presenting. That's why I say 5, because then each person would get at least 4 minutes to present their part. That would lessen if I add one more group member to the group.
Miss, I think I would have started some part of this assignment, and I am Rosa. We have 2 from my center here, myself and my other colleague. And Annie, and Margin with Annie, there's 2 there. And with Anna Regina, Charity, there's 2 also there. So, and I would have started.
Okay.
Miss, one more question before we go. Miss, the part that state, will you say that you have to state the reason for the reason why you choose it, right?
Yeah.
I will say I'm kind of contradict here, because in the overview of this program, right, it's actually saying like you bring in the purpose and stuff, like, and you like want to speak a little about it. So I'm not too certain of the part where you say this will have been in the overview when you will be describing the program or something, and also with the purpose of it.
Okay, so if you look at the body, under the body section, right? You have name of project, 3 objectives, and so on. The second point, the second bullet point says overview of program. That is outline the purpose of the project or rationale for the project and how it will benefit its target population. That's the part you're talking about?
Yes, Miss.
Good. So overview of the program is like a heading. And under that section, these are the things you're covering, right? You're covering the purpose. You're covering
The aim.
the
This project.
rationale, right?
Mhm.
So the rationale is where you give context. The rationale is where you give context for why you're doing this. So yes, you have the purpose, but the rationale gives you context. And then how it will benefit its target population. So we are speaking of general benefits you're talking about. You're not like going into details and so on. Did I answer your question? Because I'm not sure that if I'm speaking on the right parts that you want.
Yes, Miss. I kind of understand, the purpose, rationale, and still the reason for selecting this
How far
program.
did I? At the top or
Mm,
on the
Miss,
which
no,
section?
Miss, you say this on your part. Like,
Okay.
I
Okay,
only
I
see like,
understand. Yeah. Maybe when you guys are listening back the recording, you'll be able to tell me.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but okay, I probably misspoke there. But why it's important and so on, or the reason for the program would be done at the top with the overview, right? That would be done at that point. Good. So the PowerPoint, I'll mark it out of 20. And I'll mark it the same way I mark written assignments, right? So it means that you need to have it adhere to academic guidelines. You're referencing your in-text citations, you must have your introduction, your conclusion, and so on. Remember, your PowerPoint, though, is not, you shouldn't have paragraphs on your PowerPoint, right? You should have points, but your points must be relevant and it must be your main points to what you're going to discuss. If you want to add pictures and so on, you can add pictures, but whatever animation or photos or images you add must be relevant to the content on your slide. It must not just be added there to look pretty. Good? So you want to have, so if you, let's say you're doing personal hygiene and maybe you want to put a photo of, a teacher working with a blind student, showing them how to brush their teeth, for example, you can do that because that relates to what you're talking about. Okay. And as I said, your absolute deadline is the 28th of July. You are recording your presentation, so you must have your PowerPoint in the video. And as you go through each slide, each group member will present their part, and then you end your presentation. You upload that video to your YouTube or your Google Drive, and you share the link. Go ahead.
Rosemary, I'll just be stepping away from the computer for a few minutes.
Okay, no problem. Yes.
Okay.
She can just send my message. Yeah. And then I will open a portal for you to upload your PowerPoint. Are we clear? Each group member, yeah. So for the PowerPoint presentation, each group member will have to upload it. Because remember, when we open a portal, in order for us to publish a grade there, you need to actually upload something, right? So you will upload a PowerPoint, but I'll just be marking one. So when I publish the grades, everybody will get to see their individual grades. Go ahead. Someone wanted to say something.
Clear. We are presenting in class, or we just recording and submit?
Recording and submit.
Okay, miss.
Because we wouldn't have time to present live. So it's better this way. You present whenever it's convenient, you record it, and then you submit it, right? And then I'll mark it. Any other questions on this?
You just, sorry, did I hear you right? So we're not presenting in class. We're doing a recording and send it to you. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
All right, good. Miss, question. I know you're emphasizing on 5 persons, but for Torkine we have 7. And truth be told, I think in other centers we have uneven numbers, you know. Is there anything that can be done to accommodate our uneven numbers? Because normally we work by center 99.9% of the time, and Torkine has 7. So is there anything that can be done?
The only compromise I can make is that the class number allows for one group to have 6 persons, or maybe 2 groups to have 6 persons, because two, when you divide the class number by 5, maybe you have 2 left over. I can compromise with that. But as I said, if everyone says that they want to go ahead and do it, then it may put you at a disadvantage, because remember, I'll be grading everybody individually. So if I feel as though your part was not detailed enough, or I didn't get the information I was looking for, it could hinder your grade, right? So that's what I was considering. But if individuals want to, if everyone seems to want to work by center and you have 6, but I can't allow 7, though 7 is too much to have in a group. So I don't know if you guys could split, and then like some extra ones from the other centers, that group work together, because it's online and you have to present and record it. You know, like you don't even have to all be live presenting together when you're recording it. People could just send in a voice recording of their presentation, and someone just merge everything together and line it up with the PowerPoint. Like those are options that you have. So I don't see it being a difficult or a big challenge to get it done.